Let's talk about donor retention with the fantastic Farrah Rooney. Hello, and welcome to Driven's Fundraising Superheroes podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Shushante, and if you're not familiar with us, Driven is an all-in-one fundraising platform here to help you unlock the power of your donor data and save hours in data management. I am so happy to have Driven's Director of Partnerships, Farrah Rooney, on the show. She works with us, but has been in the industry for over 15 years as a consultant, strategist, and events manager. Farrah has helped nonprofits connect with donors, raise money, and build better communities. And she's on the show today to discuss how we can keep donors engaged in 2021. So thank you, Farrah, for coming onto the show.
Well, I'm happy to be here.
So we're entering a new year. We're in the new year, meaning a lot of us are starting to set goals and resolutions to make 2021 hopefully a lot better than 2020. How important will donor engagement be in the new year?
Yeah, I mean, donor engagement is always super important, no matter what time of year. I tend to think that, particularly in January and the beginning of the year, donor engagement and just supporter engagement in general is so important. You sort of garner a lot of really fantastic goodwill through the holiday season, and you're talking to your donors and you're giving them gratitude and love, and they're giving you gratitude and love back, and then there's this sort of this feeling of just like relief in January. I know, because I'm a fundraiser, and you get through it and you're just exhausted and you just want to take your foot off the gas a little bit in January and February, and that's often the most really important time to just really be engaging with your supporters and letting them know all the amazing impact they're going to have in the upcoming year, how much work was done the previous year, just really how you're going to partner with your supporters to really make a difference. And the other thing to consider too is there's a lot of research that shows that you can actually upgrade your one-time donors or your donors really a lot faster than you think that maybe you should, and ask them for that second gift, or ask them to convert to be a monthly donor, or even ask them to sort of upgrade their monthly donor gift. I've seen research that shows that there's a lot of success, getting that upgrade conversion, even within the first few weeks after you make that first donation. So that's another thing that I would really explore, test and test and test. So test out, segment out and test, asking your one-time, donors to upgrade to a monthly gift, and explain to them how they can make an even deeper impact for 2021, and how that gift will be really transformational. So don't be afraid to do that. The other thing that you can do, just kind of looping back onto that whole engagement engagement piece, is just, why not create a welcome series for the new year? I know a lot of nonprofits out there and organizations, they do have that welcome series after that first gift, but a lot of times that will have run out, and that will have sort of expired and run its course by the time January comes. So why not create, segment out your new donors from sort of, October, November, December, and set up a welcome series, or even, further back, why not? But if you want to sort of look at those sort of new supporters and create a nice little welcome series, that ends in your final, the final one being an upgrade ask. There's no harm in sort of, sending out a second welcome series, welcoming everyone to 2021, and hopefully, a new year and a better year.
Definitely, yeah. Because Giving Tuesday, I know, is notorious for like bringing in a lot of new donors, but I think the biggest thing that I've seen in the space is that sometimes it just ends there. You get all those new people in, and then that's it. They only donate the one time. So with that, coupled with December 31st being the other big day of giving, how can nonprofits continue to keep that momentum going and turn those first-time donors into long-lasting supporters? I know you mentioned a welcome series, so what should that look like? for nonprofits?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think first of all that definitely it's sort of understanding that the threshold for sending out communication to your supporters is probably a lot higher than you might think. I know from, again, when I was a fundraiser and speaking to a lot of my clients, that there's sort of this gut feeling that you don't want to bother you don't want to send out too many emails. You don't really want to bother your supporters too much. But the fact is that research shows that you can be sending out a lot more email than you do a lot more communications. And I should specify too that I'm talking about email communication specifically right now. That you can send out a lot more than you necessarily think that you can. So why not be sending out emails weekly, or you can test out even more. Keep an eye on the unsubscribe lists or unsubscribe numbers, but also of course keep an eye on those donation conversion numbers and really see, and also ask yourself, those folks that you're losing for unsubscribes, are they really that engaged with you to begin with? If you're telling the right story and you're reaching out to them and you're talking to them and you're approaching them in the right way, I don't think you should worry at all about talking to donors too much. And hey, I mean, there's lots of research and science out there around this, so definitely go out and have a look, and why not test? Just keep your eye on it. If it doesn't work for you and you get tons of unsubscribes, then definitely relook at your strategy. But also don't be afraid. If you do get, an unsubscribe here and there, if you do get, one email of somebody being, a little annoyed by it, like don't let that stop you from continuing to communicate maybe more than you feel, you should, because you have one squeaky wheel, but that doesn't mean that the other, 10, 20, 30, 40, even 5,000 folks that you're communicating with that are liking hearing from you more aren't appreciating that, or don't mind it. And one day that they very well may be, just about to convert and just about to become a monthly donor for you. So yeah, that would be my one thing. And then as far as thinking about sort of how much you're asking for as well, and donation amounts, I would definitely sort of look at that. Think about segmenting out your different donor groups, donor levels. Like for instance, if you are considering building out a mid-level donation strategy for 2021, which is maybe a good idea for you, for your organization, why not look at segmenting those folks out and asking for a little bit of a higher donation level, and also why not build a donation form that speaks just to them. If you have the right software, it should be fairly easy to do, and send out that donation form with that email, so all of those donation levels are aligned. And just in general, it's always a really good idea every once in a while just be going, and you should be looking at your average amount anyway, all the time online. And, if you're finding that your average gifts are coming in a lot higher than your asking levels on your donation forms, then, I think it's probably a good idea to look and sort of bump up those numbers, and, maybe be asking for a little bit of a stretch, asking for 10%, 50% more than your average gift with your donation levels, and donation ask levels on your donation forms, and see. So those are the kind of, is talking about misconceptions, really be around, like, think about your donation asks levels, think about segmenting out, your different donor groups, and maybe, pushing them a little bit, the amounts that you're asking, as well as, don't be afraid to send out more emails, and test. Always test. That's the big thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love what you said about even if you do get unsubscribes, just maybe like take a step back and evaluate what is causing that, because I know that sometimes we think that our mind automatically goes to, oh, this created this reaction, so it has to be that I'm sending too many emails, or it has to be this specific thing, but it could be really anything. So when people are evaluating that, like what are some tips you can give them?
Well, I mean, honestly, it's kind of like, to use a statement that was really popular like 10 years ago, is just keep calm and carry on, right? I mean, I did a big project with a fairly large client, and that was around sending out a lot of emails. We were doing surveying to get information back, and there was a couple of complaints, and the client came back to me and was really concerned. And I said, I hear you, and it's definitely important to address that person's concerns and to listen to them. But at the same time, there were, we sent out 20,000 other, we sent out this to 20,000 other folks, and we heard back from 2. And so let's not, because they were looking at like pulling the plug, and they were really concerned. And I was like, no, let's just keep our eye on the big picture. Think about the benefits that you're going to, get from this, and also the investment of time and money that you've already put into this, and let's just keep going. And that's not to say that if there are specific concerns that even you hear from one donor, and it's worth looking at and considering. It might be an oversight, and you're like, oh yeah, that's actually a really good point. So not to dismiss that, but definitely, like I said, just keep calm, carry on, don't panic. Keep your eye on the prize, keep your eye on the big picture, and and keep going.
Yeah, communication is really huge when it comes to maintaining and building donor relationships. So how can fundraisers use their donor data to help make more relevant and effective appeals?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think it comes down to, planning, research, segmentation. And I know that's sort of easy to say, but the first place I always just love to look at is just your own data, and going back and seeing what's been working. Sometimes you're just so busy just going and going and going. You don't really have time to sort of look at your actual data. Example I like to talk about too is I was working with another client, and they're a large charity that does domestic work and international work. And I was just curious about their appeals and which ones were converting better to monthly than others. And I noticed that even though the large amount of their appeals that they sent out were around their international work, the appeals they sent out for their domestic work were actually converting at a much higher level. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I get it. There's like lots of different factors that might be at play, and I also understand that the sort of focus of the charities often drive the appeals, and I understand that there's a lot of different sort of moving parts. But in this case, I was like, okay, we can see that there's a certain group of people in the country in which they're operating that are very, very engaged in your domestic work, and they want to support you through becoming a monthly donor. So let's explore doing some more appeals around your domestic work, which was, amazing. Like, they were doing tons of great work domestically. They just weren't talking about it as much. And let's just explore that. And then it might be easier said than done, right? Like, there are a lot of different factors at play, but by just saying, okay, let's look at this, let's explore this. Can we start, testing this and seeing how this works? You can possibly, achieve some great wins there for you, for your organization, and also for your supporters, because your supporters might be super hungry to be hearing about, like, your domestic work, for instance, in this example, but you're just not talking about it as much because you hadn't even looked at it, you hadn't even thought about it, right? So there's there's one example, and then again, segmenting those folks out and testing. The other thing I think is really important, and I know I've seen this on the blog before, it's just really good storytelling. Finding those amazing stories, telling those really, great stories, seeing, again, looking back, doing the research, seeing what stories resonate with your supporters, and then really understanding the heart and the craft of those stories. in animal welfare, those charismatic animals, they always tend to convert really well. So, really understanding and getting those stories. As well, the way that you, the things that you include in with those stories as well. If we want to talk about direct mail, things like premiums, little pens that can, or things that you can, give away, that can help support support and deepen that relationship. Sometimes just getting a pen or getting some labels from a charity can help build relationships. As well, and again, I'm thinking about direct mail, things called, bounce backs are really, can really help engage, which is, it's an insert, or it's a little, something that a donor or supporter can fill in and send back. It could be a pledge at Christmas time, some really meaningful ones around Christmas wishes, back to their, the folks that the charity supports, or it really can be lots of different creative ideas. So those are all different things that you can kind of create to sort of, maintain and sort of create really, maintain those relationships, to create sort of deeper relationships. And also, as well, always sort of that call to action, and making sure you have a really strong call to action that's sort of tied to the story that you're telling. So yeah, I think those pieces, all working together can create really relevant and effective appeals, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And I guess that the testing, along with the analytics, they really do go hand in hand, because that example you gave was a perfect one. How would you have known if you didn't try, promoting both the international and the community-based work? And how would you know that it was doing better if you didn't, have that data system that was telling you, like, this is what's converting, this is what's getting the donations? So I guess that having that really strong software to back up your stories, your communication, and all that is really key to, like, fixing your strategy.
Yeah, and I think that, it's not necessarily sending out A/B tests for every single email you send out, because I also appreciate that can be a little daunting. Maybe if you've sort of bumped up the volume of email, it's maybe testing something out one week, testing something out another week, and it is a bit of an art form, right? Like, it's testing out shorter emails, versus maybe something a little bit longer, or like really short emails, right? Like a couple of lines, or like, maybe 50 words, something a little longer, or testing images, or, testing an email that looks like it's, a little email that you sent off the side of your desk. It's very personal. There's lots of different things that you can try. So yeah, definitely testing is really important, because I know that so many times in my career where I felt like, this is definitely going to work. This is the, so smart. And then it's sent out and you're like, no, that didn't work. They still like the other one. So yeah, it's, you never know. You never know what's going to work with your supporters unless you test. So yeah, so having the right tools and having the right software is absolutely key to that. Being able to, have your segmented lists, understand who your supporters are, easily be able to segment them based on queries, having that tracking within the software to track back, so you can look at your open rates, you can see your conversion rates, you can actually see how much email is really raising. So you can actually see how much one email actually raised for you versus another one with the right software, as well as just really, leveraging those tracking links, looking at your Google Analytics and whatnot, and being able to tie that to your software. So, I got a bit obsessed with it when I first got into tracking, and I remember sending out a series of emails, and I had different tracking links on every single link, and even the banner, because at that time I was like, oh, banner. And within an email. And so I was actually able to go in and really, at a granular level, look and see which link was actually working. I was linking buttons differently than to linking like words, and tracking all of that, because I was really, really curious to see what actually worked. And in my case, what was working was basically hot linking the text in the paragraph that told people exactly what to do. So it was like, click here and donate now, or click here to save a life, or click here to, you know, make a difference, or whatever the story was. That was the one in this case that was performing best versus any sort of big red button. And the banner didn't really work at all either. But that might be different. I mean, it might be, you know, different for you know, for the different charities. You never know, but it's always good to test.
Going into the rest of 2021, what do you encourage nonprofits to focus on in the new year, whether it be donor retention, testing, really focusing on your analytics?
Yeah, I mean, a few things. I mean, first of all, I always believe that a good foundation is absolutely key to success. So, I mean, one thing that I would definitely say is, you know, look at your technology. And I mean, hopefully with everyone working from home, it's cloud-based. If it's not cloud-based, definitely look into getting a cloud-based solution. You know, look at your processes, because the other thing too is the technology is only as good as the people in process. I've seen a lot of times, spoken to a lot of clients where they're really struggling with technology, and in fact, it's not necessarily the tool that's the issue. It's the processes around the tool. You know, it's inconsistent data, inconsistent naming conventions around your appeals. It's, you know, people not entering things, or people, you know, whatever. So, you know, take a step back, look at your processes, look at your software, and try to see, you know, if there can be some cleanup or some sort of improvements found there. The other thing that I would suggest to focus on for the new year, and this is something that I love and I've seen it be really transformational, is to really build out an annual communication plan. And so, you know, sit down in January, bring the stakeholders to the table, and say, okay, this is our year. Line up, you know, the different months, and start sort of building out your themes, and building out your campaigns, and building out your appeals. And if there's a lot of different voices at the table, at that point you can say, okay, you know, this is volunteer month, or this is this, or this is that. You know, if you're part of an international organization, hopefully you do have some guidance around, you know, maybe international appeals, so you can plug them all in, and then you can say, okay, so we have, you know, in, you know, August we could do, you know, this sort of domestic appeal or something like that. But building it all out, and then lining up all of your channels just underneath that, right? So you have your different themes, and then you sort of line up when your key, you know, appeals are. So when your, you know, your direct mail is going out, what your direct mail theme is going to be, and then lining up your digital sort of your digital themes and your digital stories sort of around that to support it. So you're really creating sort of, you know, campaigns that are built around this kind of communication strategy, and lining up your social, and lining up, you know, if you have out of home. So if you're doing, you know, if you have tons of money, and so you're like, I'm going to take over all the buses. So if you're doing like buses, or you're doing, you know, billboards, or, you know, you want to test out direct television, DRTV, but just sort of making sure that it's all kind of lined up, right? And you see a lot of charities doing that for Giving Tuesday, but, you know, why not sort of take what you've done in Giving Tuesday and just, like, you know, line it all up throughout the year. So that's one thing that I would say, you know, for a couple things I would say for 2021, you know, get those sort of, you know, processes and technology in place, and build out a communication strategy. And that has buy-in from all of your stakeholders at the table. So everyone is sort of together, you know, busting down those silos, and everyone's really focused on, you know, what you want to achieve. And also, you know, making sure that that's all aligned with the program staff as well, right? So it's everything is just really sort of tightly working together towards, achieving your mission. And the last thing I'll sort of say is just, engage, and that's sort of what we're talking about, here today. But keep talking to your donors. They probably want to hear from you more than they do. I won't name the charity, but I have a charity I absolutely love here where I live, and I donate to them. And I never hear really much from them. And I love the work they do. I know they're doing amazing work, and so I'm not, but it's just a real opportunity. Like, I would have loved to have heard from them after my Giving Tuesday gift, right? And I didn't. Or I'd love to hear like what they're doing in the new year, but I haven't heard from them. So again, that's fine. But and I bet you they think that they're probably sending out a lot of communications, but I would love to hear more from them. So there's another example. And don't get me wrong, like, I get it. I know that it's hard to, so many things to do, and everyone's stretched so thin. It's hard to sort of send out those, but or more communication. That's where that good software can come into play. You have a really great integrated, software solution that, where you have your CRM, you have your fundraising functions, you have your email solution, and it's all connected, it's all integrated, it's all in one solution. And you can set up email automations, even just be taking a couple of days, writing them out, getting them approved. And then, if the software is easy to use, it shouldn't take you too much time to set up those. And even if you do, one a quarter, it can really pay off and whatnot. So, make sure you have a great software solution that has templates, so you can easily, set up a template. You can easily play with it and test. Again, make sure that it's easy to build those segments that you have. You can build a query once, and it will pull in all those new folks into that email list or whatever. There's lots of like little things that, if you have the right software solution, it can really make a huge difference and just really save you so much time that it isn't a huge lift to be engaging and doing some of the things that we talked about today.
Well, thank you, Farrah, for coming onto the show again. I think this is the perfect place to end the podcast. For those listening, Farrah gave us a lot of good information. I think the biggest thing that we can take from this conversation is that don't be afraid to test new things, see what resonates with your donors, and of course, use a software to help measure the success of your campaigns and your appeals. As Farrah explained, a donor management software is really important to your overall strategy. And here at Driven, we believe the same. So if you're looking for a software that will help support you and work for you, we would love to support your organization. So give us a visit at trustdriven.com. If you want to stay updated on everything Fundraising Superheroes, get access to transcriptions, and get other resources like blogs, infographics, and just the latest nonprofit news, please give us a follow at Trust Driven on Facebook and LinkedIn. We post regularly. We'd also appreciate it if you could subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast and leave a rating if you can. Thank you so much for listening to the show, and we'll see you next time on Fundraising Superheroes.